church.
Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry about that. So again, I want to welcome you all. I want to first of all express deep gratitude to Debbie Ingram and the work that Vermont Interfaith Action has done, as well as much of the work that we've been able to accomplish collectively, also in the legislature, and just for being a friend. Debbie, if you don't mind sharing the screen, that'd be great. For the work that Debbie, that you've done in the legislature, and how you've taken a lot of the policy that we're doing. Let me tell you a little bit about who we are. I don't think it'd be a waste of time if I just took a couple minutes and just started with who I am, and also the Racial Justice Alliance, and tell you a little bit about where that's coming from, and some of the things that we are doing. And I'm going to ask you some questions along the way. And I think I'll start with a question is how many of you could say, and you could just raise your hand, and you got to keep them up for a second because I got to go from screen to screen. How many folks would say that today they feel as though they've made some progress in getting a better understanding of this thing, this racial reckoning, this thing called systemic racism, or just the whole concept of what we're struggling with, based upon your studies, based upon your book reading, I see a hand, I see another hand, I see many hands. Hands are going up all over the place. There's all kinds of, almost everybody has a hand up. Okay, and I see. Okay, great. So everybody's racism experts. So we're going to go on to the next. Wait a minute. Everybody's starting to shake their head now. Okay, so there's work. We still got work to do. How many people would say that? How many people would say we still got? I got work to do. We still got work to do. So that's cool. I see. Looking at this list, that largely College Street Christ Church, First Congregational. So we've got a vast array of different backgrounds. We've got folks who are from Sterling College, from Green Mountain. So there's a lot of there's women, there's men, there's folks who maybe are would say they're a little older. Some are quite a bit younger. There's a vast diversity of folks. A lot of folks are going in a lot of different directions. So what I came to do is kind of try to pull us all together and just focuses on just a couple things. And so where I'll start again, as I said, is just telling you about me. I'm Mark Hughes. I'm an Iowa native, okay? And I've been in Vermont now for about 11 years, a little bit over 11 years, almost 12 years. And what brought me here was National Life Group. My vocation at the time, I was a senior cybersecurity analyst at National Life Group. My last stop was Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And since I've been here, I've been working in various aspects of that. And then what I did was just turn the corner pretty quickly in 2014 when I saw the death of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, as he laid in the street for 4 hours. And it caused me to think a lot about what was going on. But it started with just my understanding of policing and also my understanding of Black folks' experience with policing. And that kind of emerged over a period of time. It started with just me doing some deep analysis and research, very similar to the organizing framework that Debbie presented to you yesterday. Just basically just going in and taking a look at various issues. It's kind of like what we're doing right now. Let's take a look at the issues. What I did though is after I started getting a better grasp on what we were actually experiencing, not just now in the present, but I also started to do some historical analysis. And then I also started to pull in best practices and things that were happening across the nation. I felt the need to start to tell people about it. So I started, and I was living down in the Washington County area, which is why I know where the old meeting house is, by the way. And I, being down in that area, I had the opportunity to tell a lot of folks about what I was learning, and then also to get their opinion about a lot of the things that I had learned, and to be able to get their feedback, to get their input on a lot of the things that I was coming to understand. And then folks started to say, we should talk to more people about this. So before you know it, before Tony Fakos left the department down there in Montpelier, we were talking to Tony, and we were talking to some of the legislators. We were talking to Anthony Polino. We were talking to Ann Cummings and others. So we're talking to folks that are down in that area, and we began to teach more folks about what we were coming to understand. Long story short, because we don't have a lot of time, is we finally ended up in the legislature. We were began to start talking about policy in the legislature. We were successful at moving the most two preeminent policies that address racial justice in Vermont's history. That's the Act 54, which is the Racial Disparities in the Criminal and Juvenile Justice System Advisory Panel, which included the Attorney General's and the Human Rights Commission's task force on equity, which discovered racial disparities across all systems of state government. Then we went on from that point to develop the Racial Equity Panel and the Racial Equity Executive Director, which she is now here from New York. Her name is Susanna Davis. So that work produced a lot. But there's a lot of other stuff that happened. We discovered along the way that the Constitution here in the state really never did abolish slavery. I always pause when I say that just to see the expression on everybody's faces. So that work is also underway. So it's called PR2, and within the first article of our Constitution, what we have is I'm just starting to see that folks are putting their names in the chat session with their affiliations. That is great. If you haven't done that, please do that. And so that constitutional amendment, for those who understand the process, it is a 4-year process. You start in the first biennium, which starts every 4 years. So it started a couple of years ago. You get the proposal is what they call it. They don't call it a bill, it's called a proposal. This is called PR2. And I'm telling you this for a reason, because you should be watching it. What we saw is that started in the Senate, must always start in the Senate, moves from the Senate into the House. And then that has to happen in that first biennium, those 2 years. So this second biennium, this is the second biennium of the constitutional amendment period. It must do the same thing. And after it clears the Senate and the House, this biennium, that is by 2022, and it could clear both chambers this upcoming year, but it has until 2022 to clear the Senate as well as the House. Then it will go into what we refer to as generally called a referendum. It'll go on the ballot in November of 2022 and be voted upon. Do you want in your Constitution, hopefully it'll be worded something like a proposal to amend the Constitution to prohibit slavery and indentured servitude under all circumstances. Would you vote for that? Yeah, I probably would vote for that too. So that was some of the work that we've done up until now, and I want to just give you some idea on some of the stuff that's underway right now. So what I'll do is I'll just start with and I'm not going to give you death by PowerPoint today, because first of all, I don't want to kill you, and secondly, I don't really like PowerPoint very much. But I will share a couple of things with you. We are the foundation now. We've just established a C3 not too long ago, and the foundation is behind the Alliance. We do business as the Alliance. It's important to say that the work of the Alliance and what we're doing, Vermont Interfaith Action, in full disclosure, is actually an Alliance partner. There are many, and we won't get into all of who those are. And I'm not going to give you a full presentation, but I'm just going to talk to you and let you read while I'm talking, because there's a lot of work that's going on, that's underway, and there's a lot of machinations that we have. I'm kind of itching a little bit under my arm in case you can still see me. It's nothing serious. So just getting you to understand just a little bit about what we're doing, and also understanding about what those priorities are. And I think it's important to maybe stop there for a minute, and I'll just say that, I'm going to look at my whiteboard for a minute, which is scary. I should erase it. I should take a picture and erase it. But it says here under our priorities here, how it's translated here is economic power. Our priorities are economic power, that is to say wealth, land and house ownership, cultural empowerment, mental wellness, and targeted COVID relief. That's that intentional attention that you see there on the bottom. And and they're kind of jumbled here because I couldn't spell power if I put them in the right order. But the thing here is I just wanted to get an idea of what the foundation, what the Alliance has decided to be the most important things. What the Alliance has decided to, I see my internet is unstable. So what the Alliance has decided to be the most important things that we're doing. I'm going to tell you how we do it. So a lot of what we're doing is going to be an outreach that's also cultural empowerment, economic and wealth empowerment, a lot of data. We have some data initiatives that I'm going to tell you a little bit about, focusing on policy. And also just really trying to go right after it. I mean, just really high impact things that would, have a tendency to make you feel uncomfortable, and have a tendency to kind of, bring the question straight to the table, so to speak. So we've been working for the last 4 or 5 years. We've educated a lot of legislators along the way. No, everybody's not there. There are a lot of folks who are not completely on board. They're still trying to figure out this whole business about, I don't know, is there really a such thing as systemic racism? Is there even global warming? I don't know. So a lot of folks are still trying to figure some out. And then some folks are kind of entrenched, because the thing about systemic racism, is you probably learned, because I saw all the experts on the call, is that by white people, by doing nothing, you benefit. You benefit by doing nothing. So, it's on steroids in the legislature, right? Because they have, political and economic power, many of them, and then there's just other interests and all that other stuff. But I think I want to just turn the corner a little bit, though, and just, before I go too far into telling you what the Alliance is doing, I just got off the phone with the pastor, the Reverend Dr. Christopher Cockrell, who's the new interim pastor at New Alpha Missionary Baptist Church, which is the newest African, which is the oldest, the only church in Vermont that worships in the tradition of African Americans. In fact, founded by yours truly, Rodney Patterson, in 1989. So we have a pastor, a newer pastor, and we were having this conversation. He and I were, and we were just talking about what is the mission of the church. Choose a faith, doesn't matter. What are we really here for? And so one of the things that we were talking about is being mission oriented, being directed in terms of how we go about addressing systemic racism as a community of faith. Because since we are a community of faith, it ought to look different. Because I'd like to say that, I'd like to consider myself to be a little bit of a strange kind of guy. I'm a peculiar guy. I'm a peculiar person. I'm kind of set aside. I view myself as being kind of sanctified from everything else that's going on out there. And I think my faith has caused me to be that way. And I believe that everybody on here could probably say the same thing in some way or another. And I guess one of the seeds that I want to plant in your organizing is understanding that we can't necessarily look for the government and everybody else around us to do the work that we need to be doing in our own personal lives and also in our faith community. There's certain things that we should be doing. We have a responsibility to be doing, and we should be leading and doing as folk of faith. How many people believe that? Okay, so I'm just checking in with you because I can talk for a while, but the thing is that it's real though. It's really serious. I mean, because you know the hope is, and I believe this. I think many folk on the call can say this is that as a result of your faith, people have watched you. People have even sought to emulate you. People have sought your advice. People have even come to many of us to just see what we're doing, particularly in times of trouble. So if this is a unprecedented racial reckoning globally, nationally, here specifically, then how we go about affecting change in our community, we should be leaders in because of our faith. So we should also be doing things differently. So I just wanted to just take that little commercial break. It's free. I'm not going to charge you for that one at all. I'm going to go back to a couple of other things though that I wanted to get you to see, and that is that so yes, some of the initiatives that we have in play right now is they're related to those things that are on your slide. I'm not going to read the slide to you. So take a quick gander at that, and just to give you an idea of the whirlwind that I'm getting ready to take you through in about 10 minutes. And then I want to open up a conversation and talk about involvement. And so we can talk for at least the last 20 minutes. We may even go through these slides a little bit more quickly. So in speaking about cultural education, cultural empowerment, this is really focused on, and by the way, this is informational, educational, but it's supposed to be inspirational as well. Okay, these are just giving you an idea on the things that we are doing and the things that you could do with us, or you could do on your own, or you could do in your own way. So what we're doing is we're doing webinars in various commemorations and celebrations and in various others. I'll just whip you through a few of them. Here's an example of a webinar that we do hidden in plain sight. Some of you, I think, have been to this webinar. We've done education around, teaching about the intersection of coronavirus and racism. We put on public forums, revisiting some of our policy work, inviting community out and holding legislators accountable for some of the policy implementation. And we've done commemorations. Some of you remember First African Landing Day. We've done 2 of those up until now. We instituted First African Landing Day by gubernatorial proclamation that the 4th Saturday in every August is First African Landing Day. That is a 1619 story. Another thing is economic empowerment. What we are doing now is we are literally funneling grant money into our communities. There's residual COVID money that's out there. There's other grants that we're going after. Some of them we're securing. We are looking for small Black-owned businesses. We are finding individuals and we are placing money in their hands. We also have a policy initiative that I'll tell you about later. We're also doing a lot of work in developing some planning around this whole idea of what is personal development and assistance look like, and how do we help startups. Wellness is huge right now, because at the end of the day, if we are not well, then nothing else really is mattering here. So we have a multi-pronged initiative underway that our wellness group feeds into the public health emergency initiative that's in play county-wide. We are developing intervention actions and strategies to help Black folks who are struggling with a disconnectedness from the inability for the system to meet them where they are. There's a data initiative in play that we have that's moving in a direction to collect data so we can really have some information surrounding our blind spots. A strategic plan that this group is going to be putting in play as well. This will largely be addressed with a joint partnership with the Public Assets Institute and other entities across the state. Haven't gotten I shouldn't say the Public Assets Institute, I should say organizations like the Public Assets Institute. We really haven't had a chance to nail that down, but the Public Assets Institute is one of the folks that we want to do the analysis with. But we're finding that there's not a lot of data that's out there on home and land ownership or even wealth. It's our intention to put together some type of apparatus whereby there is a receptacle to transfer wealth, to transfer um, property, even real property as well, to be able to move these assets. Because what we know is currently we've got about a 13-to-1 deficit in terms of wealth. The data initiatives, and we'll be releasing a new website here pretty soon, but you'll see on the old website that the traffic stop data, the COVID-19 and use of force data is there. The wealth and land ownership stuff, as well as the wellness stuff, is going to be out there. And then I'll almost conclude with our policy. As far as what we're doing with what we're referring to as act, acknowledge, create, and transform. This is statewide. I just wanted to make you aware that we talked a little bit about the constitutional amendment. There will be moving back in for another pass at the reparations. Black folks of enslaved descendants, Black folks who are of enslaved who are descendants of enslaved folks. We're talking about empowering businesses, land ownership. We talked about mostly all of this, but we have a policy framework called ACT. It's at the statewide level. It hasn't really been released yet. We're just actually socializing that, and so you actually got a front row seat of the preliminary unveiling. So that's going to be, all of this is going to be rolling out. This same presentation, well, more than this, is going to be rolling out across. In fact, I'll be showing it to my board of directors right after this meeting here, and then we'll be providing it to our steering committee later in the week, and then we'll be expanding out to our other working groups and our partner organizations. So some of you will be invited back. So a little bit about Operation Phoenix Rise is what's happening here in Burlington. This is the work that's in play in the city right now. There's my meeting after our board meeting tonight is a city council meeting, and we have some things in play that that involve charter change and in modifying processes for police oversight as well. You can see that mission down there. Just before you finish reading it, I'm going to change the slide and show you that there's a couple different aspects of what we're doing, not just the R.I.S.E. and in the traditional form, but there is, as I told you, that public health emergency work that we're doing, as well as the reparations task force. This is something I'm excited about because Debbie and I are talking about how we do this in conjunction with Vermont Interfaith Action to be able to overlay some of our organizing strategies together. What's dunamis about this is also there's going to be, we're excited to begin to expand the work and start working with community of faith in a deliberate, in a directed manner as the alliance. So we want to have a working group. My pastor expressed interest in this, and I think there are many folks who could probably plug into this, and we could do a lot of stuff with this working group. So this is another way to get involved. Not necessarily do something, but I think that it has the potential of actually really doing something. I think a lot of this stuff does. We'll be talking more about the youth as well. And I'm going to stop, believe it or not. I told you I was going to get through that in about 10 minutes, and I got through it in 7 or something like that. Woohoo! Look at me. So yeah, if you don't like PowerPoint, shake it off. Just shake it off right now. I don't like it. It's bad. But what I want to do is just let you know that before we open it up for a discussion, is that how we're working as an organization is we're plugging in partner organizations as well as individuals, and we haven't quite figured out. Ken can testify on this, but we really quite haven't figured out, how we're dealing with churches on an individual level. We did start those conversations. But again, I think that what's important to note is that we are moving a fairly significant legislative agenda, and there are policy ideas that I just floated by you that be kind of interesting to see what other folks think about them. You know, some of these policy ideas. It'd be, it'd be interesting to understand, what are folks thinking about, just the idea of this constitutional amendment. What do you mean that we in our Constitution that it says that slavery is, it doesn't say that slavery is prohibited. Some of the work that we're doing is informational. What are the implications is what some of the things that we can just unpack. There's a huge opportunity to talk about this whole reparations. I don't know whether you knew about it or not, but I didn't mention it, but there is a reparations, the first in the nation reparations task force right here in the city of Burlington. There's been no other city that has appointed a task force to and charge them with a full analysis. What about business and Black business empowerment? And how do we, this whole idea of land and home ownership, whereby you have like 0.2% of land and homes being owned by Black folks. What's going on with that? So I'll stop there and just say that those are some of the policy as well as outreach and training and data initiatives that are in play. We definitely want to do a better job at creating a framework whereby these data are not just collected, but also processes and tools whereby we have the ability to have access and consistently collect this data and moving forward so our children are not still having these conversations. So that's it. That's all I got. I'm open for you to pick my brain and also just to engage in conversation. I'm going to ask Debbie if you can come back. And if you don't mind facilitating that, that'd be amazing because I'm a poor facilitator. And we can talk a little bit more about this, but is Debbie, are you here still, Debbie, or did you?
I am here, yes.
Okay, I was starting to get nervous there for a minute. Debbie!
I promise I didn't bail on you. All right, so folks can use we did successfully use the raise hand function last night, so we could do that again. We have some people writing things in the chat. I see Ken White.
Can you remind us, I forgot how to use the raise hand function.
If you go to participants list.
Yes.
Yes, you can click on your name. You can highlight your name if you find your name in the, and then you click on
more.
No, it's just right down at the bottom, guys.
Yeah,
it's just right.
Just
look at the bottom. There's a little menu at the bottom, and raise hand is the first one in the list.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Thank you. Thank you.
Zoom experts. I love you guys.
That's right.
I just learned it last night for the first time. I was thrilled.
At the bottom of where?
You click on participants
Yeah,
at the bottom of your Zoom window, and then it shows up on the right, and there's a little menu bar at the bottom, right above invite and mute me. There's a little menu
at the bottom
of the list.
It says to everyone, and then it says type message here.
You're
There's
in chat.
What?
You're in the
chat.
You're in the chat.
That's not where I'm supposed to be. Okay.
Participants. Okay, here we go. We got several people who wanna. Oh,
okay.
who did that?
Oh, I
Might
don't
have been
know.
Andrea. Okay, here we go. So Ken asks, home and land ownership and small business ownership success seems like really fertile ground for a VIA effort. What are the impediments right now? Why are they still around? Sure.
Ken, when you say why are they still around? What does that mean?
Well, I think in my educational process, a lot of this has been about how we launder racism, I guess is the term that I found helpful. How racism gets put, policies become race neutral, so to ostensibly, except there are racist inputs into them. Eduardo Bonilla Silva, I think, was the guy who really enlightened me on that. And for a data-driven model, which, like you said, aligns really well with Vermont Interfaith Action's approach, trying to nail down, like, particularly along those lines of, okay, where are these, these race-neutral policies? Where are they, like, how are they becoming racist? And what are the discretion points in the implementation of this particular policy in which bias is having an outcome? Is controlling these outcomes to be so disparate. So, home and land ownership, there are historical reasons, but what are the levers and knobs that could be adjusted right now, and why aren't they? I think
I see what you're saying.
that's an interesting set of questions, right? What's stopping that from changing? Why isn't that? What would need to be done to make that happen sooner? Because it's interesting to me when the initiatives you started with, land and home ownership and small business ownership, are the reasons that are given for instance, not increasing the minimum wage, which disproportionately affects BIPOC folks, right? So increasing ownership of home and land and small businesses is a way to leverage those same intentions for Black folks and people of color and Indigenous folks. So I found that really exciting. Like, that really resonated with me in terms of what VIA is good at.
Yeah, I get it. And the I think there's a lot to unpack with that. And I think that the just to kind of keep it narrow, so we keep it tight, so we can move on to get some other questions in. I would say that from my experience, my very short, little short experience, that I've been actually taking a look at this, because, I didn't think this was an issue years ago. I voted for Reagan and George H.W. Bush, but so since I found this out and started to figure out how to work through this, it has become, I kind of emerged in my thinking from, we can't have police killing Black people, to there's a problem with the justice system, to there's a problem with all systems, to there is systemic racism, which means that we were born like this nation. In fact, there was, slavery before this nation, and slavery was actually baked into the Constitution of the United States, and segregation was legalized. It was the way we ran this nation. It was an apartheid nation. Get your head around that. So we never had a constitutional convention. We just did 3 amendments, and none of them really work today. And neither does the Civil Rights Act of 1964, not in the way in which it was intended. So there's a remnant of the impact of everything that has occurred across this nation to this day, which is reflective on, our societal norms and our societal so-called status quo. So when you look at the fact that there's the wealth of Black people, the median wealth of a Black family is 1/13 of that of a white family. What that means is that in order for a Black family to accumulate wealth, because historically, clearly, they haven't been able to, we won't go into all of the reasons why, there's also some other anomalies. There's I like to say it's anyway, I like to use this analogy about the Matrix, but I'm not going to do that. But anyway, there's this thing that there's this impediment, if you will, and your question is pointed, and the impediment is the fact that in order for, and Dr. King said it best, this to be fixed, there must be a radical redistribution of political and economic power. And the problem is, nobody wants to do that. That's the problem. How many people on this call are just dying to jump up and just start transferring their economic power? No. So that's where the community of faith comes in. because from, in my tradition, we believe that if you give, it will be given unto you, good measure, pressed together, shaken together, running over. And I think in most traditions, in most faiths, that's what they believe. So I think if we are talking about a mission of the Vermont Interfaith Action, and we're talking about how we do this in a faith-based way, this is an incredibly important conversation that Ken just, and we didn't set this up. But I think he just threw me a bone. But, as far as the work that the Alliance is doing, we're going straight into Title 10 at the statewide level. And we've got some attorneys looking at, how to go about unpacking some of Title 10 to address the language in Title 10 to create intentional equity. So for those who know about Title 10, this is where, everything from Act 250 to economic development resides. But at the same time, that's not enough. We also have to be able to go over and partner with some of our analysts, colleagues and associates, and do the deep dive and be able to find those data wherever they reside and figure out how do we begin to build data models and data dashboards to accurately depict these disparities across housing and education. We know here in Burlington, I think 4% of the houses are owned by Black people or less or something like that. We know that less than maybe 1% of the land is owned by Black people. But right now it's largely anecdotal because we can't really, back it up with solid data. Those are important though. Those data are important because, we're depending on our legislators to create data-driven policy. And we're also, we want to be able to support, we want to be able to see progress, whether it's getting worse or whether it's getting better. Ken, I have no idea whether I answered your question, but I want to stop there so I can get some time for some other ones.
Yeah, we have, I know time is short and we have 5 hands up. So we're gonna move this right along and call on Reed Willis.
Yesterday, we talked about interviewing people in our congregations, and it was my understanding that the point of doing that is to try to see what topic areas what topic areas excite our congregations. And that may be different depending on who we talk to, and may be different by congregation, and so forth. So the question then was, what are the topic areas we're going to ask about? And looking at Mark's presentation, I'm assuming it would be those 5 areas that he spelled out with power. I won't be able to repeat them, but there were sort of 5 topic areas there. And we probably would have to simplify the wording there so that whoever we're talking with could understand it pretty quickly, and we wouldn't spend a lot of time having to explain a big concept.
Yeah,
I think.
So Mark, what I think I'll do is kind of do a handy dandy 1-pager summary of what you've shared with us and what I know about the Alliance's priorities and Operation Phoenix Rise, and then I'll run it by you before I share it with these folks, because that's the idea. They're going to be doing one-to-ones and listening campaigns in their congregations, and they wanted to run some ideas by the people that they're talking to and see where there's the most enthusiasm.
Sounds good.
Can we do that? All right, so we'll do that, Reed, and give you something.
Thank you.
That's a summary.
Thank you.
Alrighty, Sue Brooks.
I have sort of a basic question, Mark, and that is, this is you're a Vermont organization, inclusive of the whole state. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. And you have some initiatives that are city driven, like the Burlington reparations issue, correct?
That's right.
And interestingly, the subject of reparations is how I personally got engaged in this subject, and that led to a lot of other study, but it's something that I find very compelling personally. And you're saying that that Burlington is the first city in the nation to establish a task force? I thought they did something in Nashville, North Carolina already.
They did do something in Nashville, North Carolina, but they didn't establish a task force to actually conduct an analysis. What they did is they made certain assumptions. I think what they did was they jumped straight to solutions as opposed to just doing a deep dive and doing the work and really
Doing the study.
unpacking. Yeah, what we're doing is we're bringing in expertise to have folks really peel the onion on this thing and figure out, to what extent an apology is required, and if reparations is are necessary, some proposals on that. Asheville kind of took a shortcut and said,
And
clearly we need reparations, and that's what they did.
Okay, here's the write a check, right? So you want to study the thing. Okay, I think that's terrific. I also want to support, well, all of it really, but the constitutional amendment, really, that was very disturbing to me to find out, and I'm glad you're running full steam on that.
Thanks for that. And Debbie, I think we would also, we take those priorities and we take those initiatives and we'll make them available to folks. Maybe just as talking points, you just go down and just read them off and then just look at the person's face as you're talking to them. You're like, aha, so. Other questions?
Nancy McClellan.
Well, the question I had for you, Mark, was more procedural, but I actually, and maybe I can just email you or get your information and do it that way. But I was really interested in one of the questions that came up in the chat because there's several people who are working with me through the Green Mountain Club, whose mission is to make the mountains accessible to all the people of Vermont. And John had written a question about, I was just interested in your response about what role can the outdoors play in the spiritual connections of renewal and personhood?
Yeah, that is something I'd like to take offline. I can see, definitely the cultural empowerment piece is very important. It's also a part of wellness. And what I mean by cultural empowerment, for those who are kind of going, what is that, with, less than 2% Black folks here in Vermont, those are of us who are indigenous Black folks. 90% of Black people were in the South of the United States pre-1910. There is definitely a lot of culture that really speaks to our origins of who we are as people, helping us to understand our people, helping us to understand where we come from. Those commemoration celebrations, First African Landing Day, Juneteenth, Kwanzaa, having access to land is also a part of that as well, not just land ownership, but just access. Being able to appreciate, because Black folks are very indigenous anyway. We're the ones who brought farming to this continent. So there's a whole nother conversation to be had there. But the outdoors, Nancy, definitely a connection. Let's hook up. Debbie will give you my contact information. Let's keep kicking that back and forth.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Now let's go to Lucy Samaro.
Hi, hi, Mark. I just wanted to ask about any connection you have with the Racial Equity Task Force at the state level, and if you know where they are with their work. And I just posted something in chat so people can look at the reparations task force in Burlington.
The task force, Susanna Davis and I talk probably every other week or so. The SEC is, the task force also has at least, I think we've got at least one person on there somewhere. We've got folks buried in the SEC on their working committee, as a working group as well. So we have tentacles in a lot of different.
A member of our congregation is active with it, and I haven't asked him lately how their work is going, but I'm wondering if legislatively there'll be a connection this year, or are they more in a study phase? Do you think?
They'll be out with a report soon, and much of the stuff that I just showed you will be informing them through their task force as well.
Good.
Great. Alrighty, and the last question goes to Mary Beth Barrett. You're muted, Mary Beth.
Mark, I so appreciate you showing us the breadth of the issues. And I mean, it's just such a comprehensive look that you're taking as an organization. And at the same time, I can feel like it's so ambitious. And where do we, as members of BIA, where can we be most helpful? Like, how do we identify some places where we can be involved? And Debbie, you may already have answered this question in terms of saying that you might do something, a one pager to focus on some areas. I mean, so that we had a smaller number of, so we maybe were working with your priorities as some options for us to get involved, things that might be responsive to community organizing type approaches. So I think my request is just for some winnowing down that will help us as we go to our congregations to figure out where we could be most helpful to you, Mark, in this work.
Absolutely, and I will again I'll kick that over to Debbie, and Debbie will, as I said, she will definitely kind of whittle things down a little bit. There's a lot of moving parts. I got to give you that.
Yeah.
Understand that we are faith. We're a community of faith. We can it's like the mustard seed thing. We can do big things. Also understand that one thing that I don't want anyone to lose focus of is that this is about if we're really trying to address systemic racism, this is about moving resources. This is about moving resources. This is about moving resources. So, what you can do could be in your pocketbook. It could be in your church's bank account. So what I'm getting at here is that I'll go right back to Ken's question. He had to drop off. Is one of the reasons why he said, what are the obstacles? Well, one of the obstacles is people are sitting on the solution. It's your wallet, not just from an individual perspective, but also a congregational perspective, and also from a legislative perspective. It always comes back to that. And the ironic thing about it is it's the very thing that was used to create this mess, this whole thing called capitalism that was created with slavery, which was perpetuated with racism. So that's all I have. I appreciate y'all. I sure do. You guys are amazing. And I know you guys are going to knock it out of the park. I'm going to keep coming back, and Debbie and I are almost inseparable. I mean, not like that, but I mean.
That's right, we're twins. We're twins.
So thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you, Mark, so much. And thank you, everybody, for giving up another hour of your time. We appreciate it. And I will be in touch by email after I write something up and run it by Mark. And then you will go forth and have your conversations, your one-to-one conversations. So, so blessings to you.
Blessings.
Thank you, Debbie.
Great to see everybody. We'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, y'all.
everybody.